I guess I'm a complete sucker because when I saw the trailer for this movie, I thought, that could be interesting. Maybe it'll be okay. But no, I'm not going to call myself a complete sucker because in the back of my mind, I was thinking, please God, don't let this be like Disappointments Room. I didn't have high hopes going into Disappointments Room, and it probably would help if I reviewed Disappointments Room before I review this, because, quite frankly, this movie reminds me so much of Disappointments Room. Just worse, if you can believe that. So, Shut In. What is it about? Well, it's about something very different from what I expected it to be. Maybe it's because I never saw a longer trailer for it. Maybe there is a second trailer out there that's longer and explains more of the story. But from the trailer I saw, it looked like it was all going to happen in one night. In fact, looking at the short synopsis on IMDb, it makes it seem like it's something that happens all in one night. It seems like the whole story is going to be about Naomi Watts taking care of her paralyzed child, which, honestly, paralyzed child isn't even mentioned in this synopsis. And he's pretty much one of the main characters of the film. But yeah, it says something like, caught in a deadly winter storm, she must find a way to rescue a young boy before he disappears forever. Honestly, that's quite the lie. Yeah, I thought it was all going to take place in one night, her taking care of her kid. She's living out in the woods. A storm hits, a big deadly storm, and it's all going to be one very secluded story, all happening at one night where crazy paranormal things start happening. That's what I thought. Nope. Storm doesn't even happen till the last third of the movie, if that. And it's not even really that much of a storm. Okay, what is Shut In really about? Well, our main character is played by Naomi Watts. She is a child psychiatrist. She's living out in the middle of nowhere in these woods in New England, I believe. So when it snows, I guess it really snows. She has an office just next door, so all our patients have to pretty much travel to that office in the middle of the woods. Probably doesn't have that much business. We only see 2 clients ever. But the first scene of the film isn't all about that. It's about her husband, and her son. They're about to send her son away to college. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay with his stepmom. Yeah, Naomi Watts is technically the stepmother in this film. Oh, trust me, it feels like the film has to be obligated to make sure that this is a stepmom by the end of the film. Without trying to give too much spoilers, but if you know what I mean, you probably know what I mean. But anyway, on the way to bring the kid to college, the father and the son have a terrible accident, leaving her teenage son now, her teenage stepson, as a paralyzed person. Well, yeah, he ends up paralyzed from the crash. And so now a year or so, I think, has passed, and she's taking care of him. She's stressed. She's still seeing her clients. She has this one deaf kid, actually played by Jacob Tremblay. Yeah, the kid from Room. He's in it. Oh, and by the way, the paralyzed kid, the paralyzed teenager. Now, I don't know him personally. Well, I don't know any of these people personally, but I don't know the person from anything, but it's from a show that I really want to see. Yeah, I don't know if he's the main character. He's the one that's featured a lot in the trailers when I see them. Stranger Things. Kid from Stranger Things. Charlie Heaton. He's the paralyzed kid. Anyway, she really wants to help this deaf kid out, played by Jacob Tremblay. And she wants to help him out. He's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say troublemaker, but he does run away and runs away to her house in the middle of the woods during winter. It wasn't a winter storm, it was just winter at night, and it was below freezing. Something happens, he runs away from her, runs into the woods, and gets lost. So now she feels really guilty, wants to help find him. She goes out there every day to search for him. Can't find him. Police can't find him. No one can find him. Suddenly, creepy things start happening in her house. Bumps in the night. And possibly the ghost child of this lost kid, Jacob Tremblay. Sorry, Tremblay, I think. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've been saying Tremblay, I think. So yeah, creepy stuff start happening. She feels like the ghost of this kid is in her house. And that's pretty much it without giving away the twist ending. And it's a twist that I'm sure you can see a mile away. A funny little thing about the twist. I predicted it a week before the movie even came out. My cousin and I, with my dad, we had seen Hacksaw Ridge, and I was taking my cousin home. Driving him to his house, and I said, oh, well, these movies come out, and I mentioned Shut-In. He didn't know what it was about. I briefly explained what the trailer looked like it was about to be. And then I said, you know what, there's probably going to be a twist ending. And so I just started spouting off different dumb possible endings. One of them was the frickin' twist in the actual movie. This was quite bad, people. It was really, how do I even put it? I mean, maybe to some people it'll be enough saying that this is worse than Disappointments Room. Not by much, but definitely worse. Mainly because I had no expectations going into Disappointments Room, so I wasn't that disappointed from it. With Shut-In, I had a little bit of high hopes, not high hopes, but a little bit of hopeful thoughts of the movie, and it turned to be dashed away by this really slow, daunting film. Well, not daunting, just slow, crawling film. Redeemable qualities. What can I say good about the film? There were moments where it made me laugh. There's actually some good actors and actresses in this movie, and they performed well. The main four cast, you got Naomi Watts, who's trying her best for sure, and probably the best one of the four. You got Jacob Tremblay, who is completely wasted in this film. Like, they waste his talents. He's barely in the film, and there's nothing to it. He's barely in the film, and what I can say about him and his purpose in the movie, it would just give away the twist, so I can't even talk about it, unfortunately. Let's just say his talent is completely wasted in this film. The actor from Stranger Things plays a very convincing, paralyzed person. There's probably more I could say about it, but I don't want to give away the crazy ending. And Oliver Platt even shows up in this film as Naomi Watts, psychiatrist in the film. So there's two psychiatrists. There's the child psychiatrist and her psychiatrist. And pretty much almost his entire screen time in the film is through Snapchat. Well, not Snapchat. What is it? Skype? Skype. And I have to say, most of his scenes are pretty much pointless. The only reasons they're used in the film is to express what she's going through and for her to explain to the audience how she feels rather than the movie just show us how she feels. And as dumb and stupid as the ending is, there's two good things I can say about it. One, it is entertaining, sometimes in a bad way, but entertaining. And two, it's the only thriller aspect of the entire film. The final act is a thriller. The first two acts feel like one long first act, only there to set up. All it is setup after setup after setup, and brief, random, creepy things that aren't even creepy. That's all I can say good about this film. Let's get to the bad. This is extremely hard to even consider this a thriller. Not even a slow-paced thriller, not even a suspenseful thriller. This isn't a thriller at all. There's nothing exciting, nothing suspenseful throughout almost 2/3 of the entire film. The first two acts really feel like one long first act. All it is build up and set up and planting seeds of what is to come, and it really feels pointless and random. Like, at least every scene, every little thing that's in it, I can see, okay, I understand what they're going with for, and I understand how that adds to the twist. I understand what they're planting in this movie for us to realize what's going to happen and to make the final act have more of an outcome and more of an effect. But they go about it in such a way that feels like it's so long and so tedious and so random at times that it feels like it takes so long to actually get to the film. I don't say this too often. I've seen a lot of slow movies in my time, and I've liked a lot of slower movies and a lot of suspenseful, creepy movies. I can appreciate build-up. I can appreciate character development. This is probably one of the few times you're ever going to hear me say this about a film. But it feels like it takes way too long for the film to actually start. It feels like it actually starts when the twist happens, which makes me feel that this movie was made with a twist ending in mind, and they had to think of how to get to that twist. Well, let's just have this and this and this. There's a movie. That's pretty much what this feels like. The creepy stuff, the horror element of the film, the thriller aspect of the film doesn't even come until the last third of the movie. I didn't even feel this bored in Disappointments Room. Actually, it probably would have been better if I reviewed Disappointments Room. Eventually I'm going to get to that, but maybe that would make a much clearer point if I reviewed that first, which I've seen first. I haven't sat down to review it yet. Someday. And trust me, when this movie finally comes out, when it comes to DVD, it's probably getting an in-depth review, and it's by going through all the stupid things that happen in this movie. Now listen, if you're a fan of dream scares, dream sequences, a lot of jump scares with big loud music that makes you jump rather than the actual thing on screen, if you like that kind of stuff, then you'll probably enjoy the first two acts of the film, because that's pretty much all it is. Dream sequence, jump scare. Jump scare, dream sequence. Dream sequence, jump scare. Pretty much the entire film. Or at least the first 2/3 of the film. And trust me, this movie gets repetitive to the point where it's just a long cycle of something happens during the day where we learn a little bit more of her and other things. Night happens, bump goes in the night, she gets up, investigates. Something may happen, something might not. If something does happen, something is scary, and it turns out to be a dream sequence. Or, get this, there are times when it feels like, oh, something's actually going to happen because it looks like something horrible happened, something scary might happen, it builds up to it, something's happening, and then it either cuts to the next scene as if nothing ever happened, or she simply passes out. Every time something's about to happen, every time a scary sequence might build up to a full-length scene, it just cuts away or she passes out. That happens a lot, actually. Now they continually keep referencing this big storm that's going to happen. I keep waiting. My dad and I, we saw this movie and we're like, because we couldn't see Arrival that weekend because it was the weekend I worked. And so I get off at 3:30. And Arrival is unfortunately at movies 10, which means that matinee over the weekends, only over the weekends mind you, matinee ends at 4 o'clock. I get off at 3:30. There's no 3:45 showing, and I probably wouldn't even make it to the theater in time to see that kind of movie, that time of movie. So we were stuck with whatever came out in classic cinemas, and guess what? It was the only movie to come out in classic cinemas. Shut In. So we had to see Shut In. That was our movie Saturday. Fuck. But every time a new scene would happen, a new day would happen, a new night would happen, my dad would continually whisper, "Where's the storm? I thought there was going to be a storm." The beginning of the movie, it references a storm, I think. Like the first time, yeah, it's the scene after the title sequence, because it's the prologue where the kid has the crash, then it's the title, I believe, and then it's the first scene. And one of the news stories is, oh, a big storm's coming. Okay. Is it going to happen that night? Nope. Is it going to happen the following night? Nope. What about the next night? No. No. It happens at the very end of the film. It takes so long for it to get there that it feels like weeks or even months went by before this big storm hit. Maybe it was only 3 days before it hits. It's hard to tell. This movie feels like it is gone forever. And you know what? As I think more about it, this film almost feels like it's trying to be The Shining. It tries to add some supernatural, maybe there's ghosts, maybe there's not element. It has a little bit of a psychological thing where it almost feels like the mother's having a breakdown. There's a snowstorm at the end, which barely feels like a snowstorm at all, because it's not some raging blizzard that happens. It's not. Like when Naomi Watts actually finally runs out of the house, there's no blizzard. It's night. There's no blizzard. No snowfall. There's snow on the ground, but there's no snowfall. There's no freaking storm. Either there's no storm or it blows by really quickly, which makes no sense because it's supposed to be a freaking big storm. She's not shut in because of the storm. She's shut in all right, but by a different means at the end of the film. Now look, some of my complaints about her passing out when anything good starts happening, or a few other things that I might nitpick, they are explained in the last act of the film, so if you want to defend this movie and say, oh, well that is a stupid thing because this happens in the last part, yeah, I understand. There are things that do make a little bit more sense, but it makes it no less dumb for some reason because of how it's executed and how the film is structured. And honestly, when you know the twist, when you realize what is actually happening, it just... the floodgates open of new questions and new unanswered things where you just think, what? It may explain away some of the dumb things, but a flood of other dumb things just pour in once the twist happens. And you know what? The ending is the most entertaining thing about the film, but it's the thing that I want to talk the most about because of how dumb the twist is, how things don't make sense, and just some of the dumb things these characters do at the end of the film. So for now, I'm going to give my rating, and then if you want to stick around, you don't care about the twist being spoiled, you want to hear more about it, alright, then you can stick with me after the rating. I'm going to give Shut In a half a star. Probably doesn't even deserve it, but there's some elements that are okay in this film, and some elements that are like, oh, that could have been interesting. Okay, you want to know the twist ending of this film. Now you've probably already heard the twist of this film, but if you haven't heard it and you want to hear it, here's what happens. So, the twist is the paralyzed son that got paralyzed from the accident, he's actually not paralyzed. He's faking it. And those drugs he's supposed to be taking for the medicine he's supposed to be taking, yeah, he's been drugging his mother so that Naomi Watts would be asleep at night, not be able to wake up, and that explains why she passes out all the time, apparently. The kid that ran away, Jacob Tremblay, And this vision she's seeing of him in her house, it's not a ghost. It's actually him. Apparently he had seen the the paralyzed kid not paralyzed. And so the paralyzed kid, this paralyzed stepson, mind you, is jealous not only of her attention to her frickin' patients, but now Jacob Tremblay has seen him. He's like, I gotta get rid of this kid. But he can't get rid of him. He can't kill Jacob Tremblay. What does he do? Chases him into the walls, locks him in the walls, and that's where the bumps in the night is happening. Because Jacob Tremblay is hiding in the walls of the house. That is one committed kid to pretending to be paralyzed. I mean, he's not actually paralyzed. He's faking it. Apparently, he's able to fake it so well that he fooled all the doctors. That's right, he had to have gone to a hospital. That even mentions it in the movie. It even mentions the doctors realizing there is brainwaves that are just getting stronger, but they don't question why he's not able to move. They can't do some sort of experiment that maybe shows that, hey, maybe he's not paralyzed at all? How is this kid so freaking committed? Like, you'd think you'd have the urge to give up and say, okay, I'm not paralyzed, or even be a teenager and play video games, or want to go to the bathroom by himself. Oh, that's right, because he has this creepy obsessed thing with his stepmother. I mean, it's not specifically said in the film, but it's deeply implied. And I will say he hams it up really entertainingly. He plays a convincingly crazy, hammy, psychotic freak. How does he give Naomi Watts the drugs in order to be drugged in the first place? They're swallowable pills. It's not injections. It's not a syringe. It's swallowable pills. So where does he put the pills that gets her to swallow them and eat them, and how? Of course the movie never explains it. Just says that she's drugged. Oh, and you know what else reminds me of The Shining in this movie? Well, it reminds me of a lot of horror movies and a lot of horror thrillers at the end, but it reminds me of The Shining the most because of the whole winter aspect of this big storm that never happens. Oliver Platt has been on Skype this whole time. He gets blood test work from her because she's really stressed and he wants to figure out what she can take. But the blood test comes back that she's been drugged for the last couple of however long she's been taking care of her faked paralyzed son. And so he confronts her with it. He's like, why have you been taking the pills you're supposed to be giving to your son? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she has to leave. I can't remember what happens, but she has to leave. I think she was doing something in the basement. Yeah, she was trying to open up a door in the basement that was padlocked, which leads into the walls of the house. Like, I gotta go. I can't deal with this, right? I can't deal with it. So she goes down in the basement and somehow now, I'm no Skype expert. I never use Skype. For any of you that have used Skype, does this make sense to you? She hangs up. He has not hung up. She hangs up, well, they're on laptops. She cancels the call. She ends the call. She ends the Skype. But she has it still on screen even though she ends it. But somehow he's still able to see live what from her laptop camera. So he sees the house as she leaves. Because if it works like that, where if one person hasn't ended it, but the other person ends it, and so the person who hasn't ended it can see into the house still, can still see what's actually happening live to the person who ended it. Doesn't that sound like a possible stalking peeping Tom sort of thing? I don't know. I've never used Skype, so I don't know. I don't know. It just seems something implausible about it. But they have to have it in this movie because that confirms, oh, he's not in his chair anymore. The paralyzed kid is missing. Holy crap, he just walked past the screen. I gotta warn her. And so what does Oliver Platt do? Well, he continually tries to call the police, gets busy sign every time. So he's like, as he's calling the police, he's in the car, he's leaving, he's going to save the day. Well, he's not going to save the day. He's the typical character that's like, oh, I gotta stop them. I gotta do something. I gotta save the day. He drives to the house only to be killed in the first freaking couple minutes he's there. Just like the one guy from The Shining, you know, the one that can talk to the kid through telepathy. The kid warns him, is like, hey, something bad's happened. My dad's gone crazy. He's like, okay, I'm gonna save you. Goes into the hotel only to get killed with an axe. I think it was an axe, right? It had to have been an axe. I mean, that's the iconic scene later on, or before that, with the whole axe on the door. So yeah, he must have killed him with an axe. Oh, and the whole Shut In title, it's not because of the frickin' storm. No, it's because the paralyzed kid, while they're hiding, after Oliver Platt has died, while they're still hiding in the closet, they managed to stay in the closet, still hide, and not try to escape long enough for him to nail every single window shut. That's why it's called Shut In. You know what some of the stupid things that Naomi Watts' character does in this movie? Granted, she's probably still a little drugged up. She's probably not making the best decisions. But there is times in this movie where I'm just like, even a drugged person, an impaired person, why would you drop that? Here's what happens. There's this one moment where she tricks him into getting closer so that she can knock her faked paralyzed son out. Because she wants to save Jacob Tremblay and herself from her crazy stepson. She knocks him out with a pan. He's down. She's like, I gotta get the nails out of this door. Takes the hammer from him because his iconic weapon in this film is a hammer, which not only does he use to nail all the windows shut, he also scrapes it along the wall to have that extra movie cliche of a weapon being scraped across the wall. She takes his hammer, pulls out all the nails. He slowly starts to get up. She's on the last nail. He gets up. He chases after her. She opens the door. They all chase. They all run out. Next thing you know, the creepy stepson, has the hammer again. So at some point, the movie didn't show it, Naomi Watts took the hammer, took out all the nails, knew the stepson was getting up and chasing her, made the decision to drop the hammer and go weaponless as they run out into the night, into the snow, but not snowing, cold, below freezing weather. There actually might have been 2 times where she drops her weapon instead of keeping it. So yeah, that's Shut In. Can't wait for it to come out on DVD and do a whole review where I go through the whole film. That'll be fun. So, did you see Shut In? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. And if you made the smart decision not to see Shut In, then what is the most boring thriller you have ever seen? I don't want you to say like suspenseful thriller. I mean boring thriller. Thriller that just was not thrilling in the slightest. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015 and 2016. As always, this is Bruce Gifford and this was Just My Opinion.